is the objective test, which violates the freedom of speech, which is guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, and the other test is the subjective test, which preserves the freedom of speech and is based on the intent of the speaker. Anthony Ellis was convicted of his speech and expression on his Facebook posts because the objective test was applied. However, according to the subjective test, Alonis should not be convicted because he did not intend to hurt or threaten anyone. Different circuits facing this issue have reached contradictory opinions. The issue before the court is whether to apply the subjective test or the objective test. In deciding which standard to apply, this court should give great weight to Alonis' constitutional right to his freedom of speech. In doing so, the subjective intent should be the equitable standard to be used. The issue here should be judged by whether Alonis intended to harm anyone over his Facebook posts. After his wife and children left him, Alonis vented his feelings through his Facebook posts. I will admit that he did post ugly, detestable, and absolutely disgusting rap lyrics. However, Alonis' speech was not ever a real threat. It was just therapeutic to his melancholy. These words are protected by the First Amendment, which grants him the freedom of speech. Alonis' lyrics were not intended to warrant true violence. They were harmless and innocuous ways to express his feelings of depression, frustration, and desolation after being abandoned by his wife. These are natural feelings for people to fear after being forsaken by someone who you care about. Should Alonis be restricted from conveying his feelings to a general Facebook audience through lyrical posts? Absolutely not. He is permitted by the First Amendment to reveal his feelings through his protected freedom of speech. To prohibit him from doing so would be abridging his First Amendment rights and thus violating the U.S. Constitution. Since this case deals with the First Amendment, the true threats test is applied. His rap lyrics, which he posted on Facebook, are protected by his freedom of speech, and they are no different from the same rap lyrics as legendary artists. His musical lyrics were imitating those of rap gods like Eminem. Moreover, Alonis' writings are all his way of depicting art, not threats. This court should resoundingly reject the objective test because it violates the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, the U.S. Constitution, which is the bedrock of this country. Robert Richards, the director of the Pennsylvania Center for the First Amendment at Penn State, argues that on the internet, the recipient is not the issue anymore. That, unlike a letter, posts on social media may simply be left for anyone to find. In other words, Alonis is not directly sending messages by mail or phone call to anyone. He's simply posting to a general audience on Facebook. His wife does not even have to look at his posts if she doesn't want to. They're not even being directly sent to her. Alonis is not harassing her, he's not directly threatening her or badgering her in any way. He is expressing his emotions through musical song lyrics on Facebook that are viewed by whoever wishes to view his posts. Richards further explained that people use social media to say all things, but they may not be directing it to a particular individual. They're just venting. This is exactly what Alonis is doing. He's venting to and describing his emotional distress to the social media.
Counsel, what would be the difference in this case when somebody vents online and when somebody vents Facebook? Like, how would you draw the line when saying that if I basically threaten Connor that I was going to kill you, if I said that I was venting, how would that be any different from this case?
Well, Alonis is not threatening anyone. According to the subjective test, he does not intend to threaten anyone or harm anyone. Therefore, he's not posting any threats. He's just expressing his distress.
Thank you.
You mentioned there, Counsel. You said that it's clear. You said that Alonis is not threatening anyone, but people still feel threatened by what you admitted that they were vulgar and very threatening in theory.
Yes, that's true, but Alonis's right to the freedom of speech outweighs the right of someone to feel threatened by a post.
But also, was it clear to people reading posts that these were rap lyrics, and would that matter in this case?
Truly, it wouldn't matter because even if he was posting rap lyrics or just writing creatively or however you want to put it, he's exercising his freedom.
other events like that, where the perpetrators have in advance spoken out about those crimes, even recorded themselves and sent them to the police station, but they're not taken seriously. So you just think this is a preemptive strike to prevent something like
pretty vulgar, and he's just simply expressing it in the same way.
When it comes to words where who draws the line between freedom of speech is
Question? Well, there hasn't been evidence of Elenis committing any of the lyrics that he posted on his Facebook.
Just to clarify things before, do you have any examples of lyrics?
I do not.
Police did mention that he wanted to strike it in elementary school, and he also mentioned why he brought lyrics and he wanted to do really vulgar things to it. So it's not really a threat.
It's not a threat according to the subjective standard of the true threats clause.
as a woman, would you feel violated if, per se, I posted a video like this, or Corey or anyone on this dais about you? Would you feel threatened to go to jail?
Oh, I completely agree that his posts were absolutely detestable and awful. I do not condone anything that he wrote, but he's just expressing his freedom of speech, and that's his constitutional right as an American citizen.
Counsel, do you have anything to say on aspect of interpretation as presented here, whether or not she could interpret these lyrics as a direct threat?
If someone doesn't understand the context in which he is writing these posts, they may misinterpret or misconstrue the actual meaning of it. And I can't explain the actual meaning. It was just his way of expressing his emotional distress, and everyone has their own way of doing so. The last time the High Court scrutinized the true threat doctrine was in 2003 in the Supreme Court case of Virginia versus Black, when it was found that a Virginia law banned cross-burning was unconstitutional because a true threat requires the speaker to communicate an intent to commit violence. The court observed that true threats encompass statements where the speaker means to communicate a serious expression of an intent to commit an act of unlawful violence to a particular individual. And Elenis did not intend to commit an act of violence to anyone, and therefore he's not in violation of what the court upheld. One of the confounding factors present in this case is that the court has not yet viewed is the question of true threats through the lens of modern technology and social media. Social media allows for personal reflections intended for a small audience or even no audience to be viewed widely by people who are unfamiliar with the context in which the statements were made. And thus, viewers who do not have knowledge of the context in which Elenis is writing misconstrue his true intent and infer that he is making threats. However, this is not Elenis's intention, and according to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, a true threat is when the speaker or Elenis intends to communicate a threat. Thus,
So you talked a lot about the connotation of online freedom of speech and connected it to Virginia v. Black, and it was well known in the area that the burning of the cross was often a sort of calling card for the Ku Klux Klan and their acts of violence. Now, there have also been Facebook posts threatening to, shoot up schools and movie theaters, and attention to those posts unfortunately happened. Do you think that there's any connection between those mass shooters who posted on Facebook and Elenis and his posts on Facebook?
I do not know them. He's just artistically making up his lyrics in his own way and expressing his depression and frustration because his wife and children abandoned him.
Counsel, do you think there would be a difference if he actually verbally said those things versus putting them on social
Interesting question. Well, Elenis is not directly sending messages by phone call to anyone or by mail. He's simply posting to a general audience on Facebook. And so it's not like he's directly sending her a letter. I could see how that could potentially be threatening, but he's just generally posting on Facebook, and that's his right.
Was his wife tagged in the post, or was she connected to the post in any way?
I do not believe she was tagged in the post.
Is it true that Elenis had no previous history of posting rap lyrics on Facebook or being known as a rapper at context?
This is true. People did not perhaps know the side of him that he enjoyed posting rap lyrics and he had not done in the past. Okay. 3 law professors essentially explained that information posted on social media sites is often misinterpreted by viewers who do not understand the context of this information. As a result, this situation leads to viewers profoundly complicating attempts to determine a person's intent in posting something or a reasonable person's interpretation of it.
But how can, I have to do it for you. The lyrics state, there's one way to love you, but 1,000 ways to kill you. I'm not going to rest until your body's in a mess, soaked in blood and dying all from little guys. How can that be misinterpreted?
Well, I can see how people can interpret it the right way, but nevertheless, it's his right to say whatever he wants, according to the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
So when she's saying that he should have stopped after that, because he knew that he was disrupting either her or anyone else?
No, because even if it bothers someone, it's still his right to say whatever he wants because he has freedom of speech.
Wouldn't that mean that threats in general should not exist because people have the right to threat and have the right to speak, and a verbal threat would be hate speech?
Well, it's not a threat. According to the subjective test of the definition of a true threat, he is not threatening anyone because he specifically and redundantly stated that he did not intend to injure or harm anyone in any way.
Council, you mentioned that that's fully satisfied through the subjective test, but you also mentioned earlier that there's an objective test, and this test is very similar to the one used in, say, in Fourth Amendment cases, as a genuine intent to opportunity for choosing when search is reasonable or not. So why wouldn't this doctrine also apply in the first?
Well, the objective test violates the freedom of speech, whereas the subjective test preserves the freedom of speech, the U.S. Constitution, and is not. Okay. I implore the justices of this court to apply the subjective test, which guarantees the First Amendment rights. On the other hand, the objective test violates the right of freedom and expression and results in censorship.
Counsel, can you explain to the court how the objective test is against one's First Amendment rights?
I didn't say that. I said the objective test was.
All right, the objective test.
Okay. Because it, the objective test does not include the intent of the speaker. It's based from a.
When exactly, how exactly identify his intent? Not the speaker, alumnus for a long time.
He just simply stated that he did not intend to harm, injure, or threat anyone. Can I yield the time to the chair? I would like to yield the remainder of my time to the chair. Thank you.
Hi, we didn't have enough time to announce this during the opening session, but the fundraising department is having a fundraiser at Mixed Karma Bar. And since lunch is the next block, I encourage everyone to go there. The money will go back to convention scholarships. They have great food, great burgers, so everybody should go to Mixed Karma Bar. Burgers. Very good, thank you.
If you want to use the mic, you have to come up here. Okay. Order. Adam Jacobs, your time is starting now.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Supreme Court of the United States, ladies and gentlemen of the court, my name is Adam Jacobs, arguing for the defense of the United States of America in this case. When it comes to a threat, and when it comes to the freedom of speech in general, three things must be considered. One, the character of the person who is giving the speech, or something that is not necessarily a speech. In fact, someone waving a red flag can be considered speech according to previous rulings by yourselves. Maybe not. You get the point. Now, the second thing we must consider is the threat in question, or not the threat, the words or the statements that have been issued by the character. And the last thing that we need to consider is the context. What the person was feeling when they said it, and how it made people feel at the time. Now, an example for character here is, we're talking about someone who has been through some tough times. Did you say his name? Illinois? Ellis. He's not a state, sorry. Now, Ellis was, if you watch NCIS or whatever, CSI. If you watch CSI, Ellis is in the state of someone who would commit a murder. Now, that might be a little assertive. Justice McCracken shot me a look, but I will say, his wife didn't abandon him, as my esteemed opposing counselor said. His wife didn't abandon him, his wife left him with his kids, and he lost his job. Kind of like, you know, you land on Boardwalk in Monopoly, okay? Everything went wrong at once, okay? And in this chaos, he could have looked for professional medical attention. Therapy is not as looked down upon as it was. Yeah.
What's the relevance of all this?
Well, allow me, Justice Superman, Justin, how was your run?
I was disqualified. We were all disqualified.
Yeah.
Relevant.
Please, Madam Justice, take for me. Madam Justice.
You're in contempt of the court.
Can I continue?
Yeah.
We would like to know the relevance.
He was down on his luck, and in a state in which people who commit murders against former loved ones, against ex-spouses, would do. We're talking about someone who his wife totally left the house, took the kids, everything gone, because now, after the threats were issued, this wife, whose name has been withheld due to memory reasons, literally said, and I quote, that she felt mental and physical anguish due to these threats, but we'll touch more on that later.
Counsel.
Yeah.
Thought about how these Facebook posts were received, but can you please talk about intent?
Sure, of course.
Thank you.
So the intent of the character, I was, when I was talking about the three main things, intent was the context. Right? So obviously, his intent could have, in theory, been positive. He could have been venting.
And how can you tell exactly what his intent is if you are not him?
Well, here's the thing, counselor, 100% nobody knows. And that is the problem with looking at what the person said in their speech when it comes to a threat. Because, of course, looking back on things, not wanting to spend another few months or years in prison, he can always just argue, yeah, they were rap lyrics. I was doing it for my rights. But
Counsel.
This does have relevance. In the case of suicide, if a person gives specific detail or plan
via social media or to personal and digital, they're legally required to be hospitalized. They're legally required to be hospitalized for their own safety. Doesn't that mean that someone who gives specific detail or plans to murder, shouldn't they be arrested for the safety of others?
That's a totally different argument, I think, when it comes to like what people say in relation to what they're going to do, and it does have to do with threats. But in this case, I'm going to try and point out to the court here what this dude was thinking, feeling, and what the lyrics said in context. I don't really understand this.
Counsel, can you please provide a definition of intent and threat, please?
The intent, you mean the English language definition, or in this case?
In this case.
So in this case, his intent, you want to know what his intent was? His intent was to threaten his wife. His intent
How did he
was
reach her?
Allow me to read some. I pull my knife, flip my wrist, and would one of the justices like to spit a beat, as the kids say?
Justice McCracken? Evening activities, would you like to take the reins on this one?
Guys, let's keep it on topic.
All right. I pull my knife, flip my wrist, and slit her throat. Leave her bleeding, her jugular open in the arms of her partner. Now, Eminem might be able to get away with a lyric like that. The importance of why this is a threat is because I know that Marshall Mathers III, or Eminem, as he's popularly called, isn't going to kill some random person off a rapper. Now, here's the thing. This person, I have no idea who he is. I know what he's been through in the past few years, and thus his intent is questionable. Well, here's the thing. When it comes to threats, we need to take into account three things, as I said at the beginning. The character of the person, Marshall Mathers. Horrible question I asked to Jeff, my imaginary co-counselor.
Counsel, couldn't the creative energy that fueled Eminem's lyrics could have fueled this guy's lyrics as well?
It's entirely possible that he meant for the lyrics to be in a therapeutic sense, as my esteemed opposing counselor has asserted. It's also possible that he meant them as a threat. You have to consider that when it comes to something in which one person, and one person only, he's the only one who scribbled these rap lyrics onto his Facebook, we have to really think about everything instead of just thinking about what he thought. Because he, of course, could argue, he could lie, and just say, I have always been writing these rap lyrics. In fact, I want to quote one of my homies. His name is Ice-T, as the kids call him. He's a rapper, and he said, and I quote, he said, and I quote, once you start rapping, you never stop rapping. And the importance here is, we haven't seen this guy post these rap lyrics before. This is out of nowhere. Now, this might be what is called midlife crisis, where he loses his job and decides he's going to enter the rap industry. But we would have seen a musical passion from him in the past, and that would have been context and importance of the character. Yes, of course.
You said that his intent was questionable. How is the court supposed to convict this man beyond a reasonable doubt if his intent is going to be questionable?
Well, here's the thing. My opposing counselor has talked about this and all this and all that. If you look at, and just a little digress, and then I'll get back to the point. You can't always just rely on testimony. Right? In modern day, we have DNA and so on and so forth in criminal trials. And here, we can't just look at what he said. We can't just look at what the wife said, even though that does support my claim. We need to look at everything. We need to look at the way he was acting at work, which led to him being fired. We need to look at the way he was acting at home, which led to his wife leaving and entering into another state, which crosses the line. And we also need to look at the context of how he has written the rap lyrics in the past. And the biggest example of this is that he hasn't. And so that's the context. That's why I'm asking you to convict the man beyond the reason. Yes.
Yes. So you made a lot about, like, based on what you passed that a more objective thing. But would you say that a reasonable person could only think that these were threats and not say?
So you're arguing that, or you're asking?
I'm asking you to say if you think the objective test fully supports your claim.
I believe it do. I believe it does. I believe it do, Your Honor. So, in its entirety, I think, without, not even beyond reasonable doubt, beyond all doubt, that this guy is. Now, there are some people, to go back to character, right? So if Eminem threatens people, we know that he's not going to run out and kill people due to the fact of what he, the way that he lives. He wouldn't give up that lavish lifestyle of performing, doing what he loves, doing what he's, yes.
Are you saying that?
I'm not asserting that. I am just talking about Eminem. Have you ever seen the movie 8 Mile? I know you can answer questions, but just nod or cross your legs if you have those. Shit. The point I'm trying to make here is he dedicated his life to rap music. This guy dedicated his life to, like, what? No past rapping.
Counsel, you're arguing that rappers are immune from this. Like, you believe in the West Drug War, or a rap war that
there was a past.
Tupac.
That, yes, Tupac did pass, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Eminem in jail by the same way.
That's not exactly. What I am arguing, I think what you're taking is my Eminem example, and you're into every rapper in general. I'm going to bring a different example. In fact, let me read from a lyric for you. Counsel, one second. Okay, I wish to quote from a lyric. Okay. Go ahead and tell them skinny bitches, no, I'm just playing. So, do you think that the artist in that song intended all of us to go and purge the skinny bitches from the world? The point of the lyric was you not dance. The point here is that her character lended to her credibility in that sentence. Here, we know nothing about the man's character. Out of nowhere, spur of chance, emotion, control, he decided to write rap lyrics that have no base, that have no meaning other than...
Counsel, are you aware that Eminem tried to kill his wife?
His wife. Did he really?
He attempted to kill his wife.
Well, you see, the thing is...
Yes.
Counsel. No. That's one thing.
About Eminem?
Yeah.
Well, doesn't that just show that rap lyrics that are threatening can in fact be threatening? Which is
So all the rappers who have ever said anything threatening in any of their songs should be put in jail.
I taking my point too far. I'm only trying to provide an analogy to my character argument that we need to talk about the character, the threat itself, and the context of the threat. And to provide an example for someone who has more character in the rap community, I provided Eminem. I could also talk about people who are not as appreciated as Eminem.
So your
And the rap
evidence is
community.
isolated to your case. To any press.
Are argue past Supreme Court cases.
Overruled court.
Counsel, do you believe the freedom of speech then applies to you, say, more so than they apply to somebody who, like honest?
Did you say that?
30 seconds. Never mind.
Okay. I wish to say one last thing before I yield to the chair. This is one of his many rappers. This had nothing to do with his wife. That's it. I've had about enough. I'm checking out and making a name for myself. Enough elementary schools in a 10-mile radius to initiate the most heinous school shooting ever imagined. And hell have no fury like a crazed man in a kindergarten class. The only question is which one? What the hell does that have to do with rapping? Didn't even rhyme.
So the justices will now deliberate. Ema?
Actually, whoa, thank you. Well, we're going to put you in charge of manning the room / entertaining. So, for 15 and 10 minutes.
Your face when you mentioned Alexander earlier was the greatest thing.
Hi everyone. Anyone know any jokes that they want to give?
Name of Mike.
Oh, you want to do a joke?
Hi guys, my name is Zach. I attend Westlake High School. Yeah. What is a zoo animal's favorite type of food? Close. It actually wasn't close, sorry. Other ideas? Actually, no, I take that back. It is close because Panda Express serves this food, I believe. No. 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 It would be zucchini because the word is zoo and then zucchini. Wait, I'll go on ahead.
Okay, you guys. So I was told to lead a small thought talk during this time. So does anyone have any idea? Oh, I'm told you to do thought talk.
Ron versus TBT. No, TBT to that. It was too soon.
Okay, we had conflicting.
Hey, okay, hold on. Do you guys want to do a thought talk right now, or do you guys want to
Still do it.
The case.
No.
Yeah, here, you made it a different thought talk?
Yeah.
Hold on, wait. Do any of you guys have any opinions on the case so far? Like, just generally speaking, that yeah.
Honestly, I think.
Hey guys, respect the speaker.
Is this like working? We can give it to you.
It's sort of like a statement is, I'm not exactly.
I'm plugged.
I'm not sure.
Alright, just last.
So I mean, like, I'm not really sure how Ellis is with rap lyrics supposedly like that. Thank you. I think is this okay? So with rap lyrics supposedly like that, I have no idea how that can be taken as self-expression when that is very like my thoughts are very provoked as to what sort of inspiration that art is coming from. That if truly the last rap lyrics that were read were truly written,
Yes.
then I do not see how that is self-expression. I would see that more as